Hello, you're listening to From the Clay to Zama. I'm your host, Karen Miller. This podcast is about the adventures and travels of two women from Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, who work for the U.S. Army at Zama, Japan. Their stories are told through hundreds of letters written home. Episode 9, Japanese West Point, letters 18, 19, and 20. In episode 6, I gave you some background information on Zama, and now Peg mentions that Zama was the Imperial Army's West Point. I found a newsreel from 1956 called The U.S. Serviceman's Guide to Japan that begins with families and service members about to arrive in Japan on a transport ship, probably similar to the one that Bern and Peg were on. Very much Cold War propaganda, though. The video goes into cultural differences, religion, and a lot of information about farming, food, and what sights to see. The average farm was just 2 acres, and the video highlights the challenges Japan faced in feeding its population. At 10 minutes, the video shows a spot where you can see 10 provinces at once, along with Mount Fuji. It reminds me of Lookout Mountain, Sea Rock City, where you can see Tennessee, Kentucky, North and South Carolina, Georgia, and Alabama all at once. Check the video out on my website from the newsreel. There was no mention of Zama. I was a little disappointed. By the way, no luck in figuring out who Gloria was, but she did get married. I suppose maybe a neighbor? I don't think she was a relative. Peg includes a sketch of the construction scaffolding in her letter, and you can see it on the web page as well. In the first letter, she finally begins to explain some of the abbreviations and acronyms that she's using. She had previously referred to her boss as the head veterinarian, but as I suspected, that was just a joke. She is working in the medical division. So, letter 18, written by Peg on August 4th, 1953. Dear Mother and Daddy, we got your letters yesterday telling us about Gloria's wedding, and we just laughed and laughed when you said about being kind to those 2 seamstresses. If that isn't just like you, you probably thought you would be more comfortable with people like that, and I can just imagine how you laughed to yourselves when you found out you were with the uppity-ups. However, people can't help but like you two, and I know they were sincere when they urged you to visit them. It's really funny, isn't it, when you think how long we've been out of contact with the Stetlers, but they really must mean all the nice things they say, and they were just lovely to me when I went over to Gloria's engagement party. How about taking over all my social engagements while I'm away? You make out a heck of a lot better than I do. This job is as boring as the one in New Cumberland. My boss is away for the rest of the week. Only one of the other colonels is in the office, so Dottie and I came to work prepared with a book. She's melting a little, and I guess she acts that way because she doesn't like Japan and is anxiously waiting for November to roll around. So I'll just keep that in mind. I'm getting accustomed to my job now, but I wish Colonel Van Tool would be in every day because I like him and he and I talk and laugh. It's okay now, though. I guess I'll stay here and not ask for a transfer. I like the idea of getting a 5 in November, so maybe it would be worth it to stick it out. And anyhow, I might go from frying pan into the fire if I transfer, because some of the other girls say that their sections aren't any better. A week ago, I met a sailor in the 45 Club in Yokohama. Last night, I had a date with him. We went to the NCO Club here at Zama and had a pretty good time. He's a real nice fellow. His name is Jimmie Combs. That's close, and she's referring to her husband, whose name was also Jim, and his last name started with a C. He asked me to go to a beach party this Sunday with Velma and the fellow she's dating, so it sounds like fun. Bern and I have decided to give up the idea of a major because most of the officers we've seen so far are pukes. We have lot more fun with NCOs, the non-commissioned officers, in case you don't know. They're just ordinary people like we are, and they aren't rank conscious all the time like the brass boys. DAC means Department of the Army Civilians. Over here, everyone talks in abbreviations. For instance, we're in the FECOM, Far East Command. I make up an ETMD report, Essential Technical Medical Data, etc. I'm still stuck on most of them. Between pidgin Japanese and abbreviations, you'd think the Americans over here spoke an entirely different language. I forgot to tell you this when I told you about Camp Zama. This used to be the Japanese West Point, and in the center of the camp is a large boulder with Japanese writing on it. Have you ever seen the newsreels or pictures in magazines about this place? I can dimly remember seeing in some magazine about Japanese West Point, and here I am. The Japanese government is reclaiming a lot of the buildings that we have used for billets, clubs, and offices. As soon as they get it back, they start remodeling it. They have a scaffolding that you would think would collapse in a second. It's poles, I think bamboo, tied together with ropes, and that's all. I'll try to draw an example of it. They make them as big or as little as the job requires, and they must be substantial because quite a number of workers are on them at one time. Yesterday, I got a letter from Mary Whistler. Wasn't that nice? I don't have anything to do today, as I mentioned before, so I wrote them a big fat letter. If you wait for our letters like we wait for mail call around here, then you're almost jumping up and down when it's time for Bob to go by. I never knew that letters from home meant so much. Now I know why folks back home are urged to write the people overseas. We read them over and over again, exchange them, and read those over and over again. This part of the letter is just for you two, so this will be one letter that shouldn't make the rounds. Just tell people what I said and don't let them read it. I think it's wonderful about Betty and Emmett. It's funny, isn't it, how things work out. Maybe Burns and my leaving had a lot to do with it. I imagine that Betts and Em feel some sort of responsibility towards you two, as they very well should. And maybe we've never let them feel the responsibility while Bern was home, and then while I was home. It sounds as though they're having fun, too. Do they talk to each other and act okay while they're with you? It sounds as though you had a wonderful time at Anne McCauley's place, and I can just picture Em being chef and just loving it. Anyhow, the reports that you've given us so far about them are most encouraging, and it sure gives Bern and I a good feeling to know that you aren't so worried and upset about them. We sure hope it continues. Who did Mark play golf with when he was home? Mother, do you remember I told you to tell Mark that Jim would like to play golf with him? Did you tell Mark or did you forget? It doesn't really matter. I just wanted to know. Aunt Pete wrote us 2 letters, and we're most grateful for her correspondence. However, she said that she's going to send us a list of things that she wants us to get. You know, as I understand it, it depends on which post office boxes go through as to whether or not any duty is paid on time. They don't open every box, but one girl sent home some raw silk, and her folks had to pay $9 duty on it. I think they just spot check, but I don't want to send anything home that's going to mean a lot of duty. And anyhow, things over here aren't as cheap as they once were. We'll try to send things to everyone, but I don't know about picking up a few things. I guess I'll just have to wait and see what she says she wants. That's okay about my insurance premiums. I'm going to start my allotment after my next paycheck, so you should have enough in the bank by the time they're due again to easily pay it. If not, let me know. Daddy, we're taking Japanese lessons now. We have a 2-hour class every Tuesday night. We've had 1 lesson so far, but we'll have to skip tonight's lesson because there's a good soldier show at the service club that we want to see. Everyone that comes over takes at least 1 lesson, but they soon give it up and rely on a few words to see them through. Most of the younger Japanese can speak enough English to understand us, and it isn't too difficult to understand each other. Our Japanese teacher is a Japanese man. He's cute. He taught us some adjectives last week. You know, semi-annual, semi-monthly, etc. He told us right after the last war he was walking down a road and saw a huge truck with a lot of Marines in it. He asked one of the Marines what kind of truck it was. The Marine said, "It's a semi." He meant a semi-trailer, didn't he? Anyhow, our teacher thought the Marine meant semi, S-E-M-A-I, in Japanese, and he couldn't imagine why the Marine said it was a narrow truck when anyone could see it was a very large truck. Well, now skoshi, little, Japanese, when we get home, but don't expect us to know takusan, a lot or much. As far as my maid teaching me, that's a laugh. She's a good kid, but how could she teach me Japanese when she doesn't know any English? I don't work on Saturdays and I would like to sleep. But about 8 o'clock, she opens my door and sees me in bed, closes the door, opens my door again, and says, Gomensai, Gomensai, Gomensai. I don't know if that's the right spelling, which means pardon me. The only reason that I know that is that there's a popular song by that name. Ask Barb. She'll know, and she'll sing it to you. The girl that I like best, besides Bern, of course, is Velma. Velma is from Newport News, Virginia. She's 37 years old and looks about 25. Last night, I asked Jimmie how old he thought she was, and he said 22. She's been married twice. Her first husband died, and she divorced her second husband. She's so much fun, and everyone likes her. Every once in a while, she'll bust out with a, I'm so proud to be here. And half the time she's lying because she has her bad times too. She's a scatterbrain, and when there's any kind of music playing, she absolutely will not concentrate on anything else. But Bern and I both get a big charge out of her and like her a lot. Well, that's about enough for this time. We'll write soon, and you don't have to limit yourselves to one letter a week, you know. Love, Peg. P.S. Is Blondie being pretty good these days? Letter 19, August 6, 1953. Dear Mother and Daddy, well, I'm just so sleepy, but I read your last letter, and I know how it is when the mailman passes you by. So I'll write some crap so you won't be disappointed today when you get this. I got a letter from Bets and Nancy yesterday, and Nancy said, how about some letters at 12:04? So I started a letter to them yesterday, finished it today, and wrote to Nancy tonight. They'll let you read them, I guess. One day last week, I wrote to Mr. McFarland. I'm anxious to see whether he answers it. From what Beth said, it must really be a mess up there. Maybe he'll ask me to come back and straighten them out. I'm assuming this is at the hospital that she worked at, Polyclinic. I've been in my room all evening. Tonight's hair washing and fingernail polishing night. The light is attracting loads of mosquitoes. At least it seems like loads. One just had his big midnight snack, compliments of my right ankle. If you had slept with me last night, you would have sworn I was nuts. Every half hour or so, one buggy bombed me, and I jumped up like a bat out of hell and tried to swat him down. Even if the Japanese lost the war, they're still trying to get back at us through the mosquitoes. Bern has a bomb, but it doesn't do much good. Tomorrow the billet is going to be sprayed, so maybe that will help. They're sprayed here once a month. Our radio broadcasters are over the Far East Network. We get a lot of stateside programs, but no commercials. Is everything still being chlorophylled? Instead of commercials, we get little gems of advice, like conserving supplies, don't go AWOL, wear substantial shoes so you don't get hookworm, which is prevalent here during the summer. And one of them is to take care against mosquito bites and other insect bites, but they don't tell you what to do. I wish I knew, but I guess I'll just have to swat the little monsters till I find a better way. My job is okay now. I've made a few more friends, and the more I talk to people, the more I find out that I'm not the only one that felt so blue and disgusted when they first arrived. Things are lots better now, and I think I'll stay. I know you folks worry when you get letters like my last few, but after all, if I were home, I'd bust off, and I want you to know how I feel about things, good or bad. So don't pay any attention to the bad letters. The next one is bound to be a happy one. Bern and I went to the 45 last night. We had a pretty good time, and Bern is getting real game. She did a sharp South American dance with a sailor, and she even jitterbugged. Friday night's the night, though, when all the regulars go to the 45, and I can hardly wait. We got the bus last night right after work and ate at the Colonial Club. Gad, what a horrible meal. I had a Mexican plate, and she had crab louie. Neither of us could eat it. Miss your cooking more and more. Jeannie Ventels, one of the girls who came over with us, made reservations at the Puglia Hotel for herself, Velma, Bern, and I, on the 22nd of this month. It's supposed to be quite a lush place. I'll let you know. Hope it's nicer than the Gojoen. Jean Kerr is over here now. Bern saw her one day at Korea Courts, but I haven't seen her yet. She works in Velma's office, and the sergeant that Velma thinks is pretty sharp has to teach Jean her job. So Velma isn't too keen on Jean. She doesn't really mind, though. She just pretends to. Well, I've written 2 more papers of junk. Take care of yourselves. I can close my eyes and see you, and you don't seem so far away. Right when you get time. I had watermelon yesterday, but it wasn't as good as our watermelons. Love, Redhead. P.S. You forgot to write about Blondie in your last letter. Letter 20 from Bern, written August 11th, 1953. Hi, folks. We're getting our mail in 5 or 6 days from the date postmarked. But to date, I still have not received the backlog, which was sent early in July. So tell anybody who wrote that I'm not neglecting them. I just didn't receive the mail. Especially, please tell Isabel that I have received nothing from her. I'm sure she wrote because I wrote to her twice, but have nothing to date so far. Last night, Peg and I went into Yokohama to the Lutheran service, which was announced as being held at the Chapel Center. The service was different from ours at home. The hymnal was published by the Concordia Publishing Company, so perhaps it is a different ethnic group. There were only a handful of people in attendance, but among them was a colonel in charge of civilian personnel in the area. He had welcomed us to this command on the first day, and we reported for work after we left the ship. In his brief remarks, he encouraged everyone to do 3 things. Number 1, have fun. Number 2, save some money. And number 3, remember to attend the church of your faith. When we saw him at the service last night, we were encouraged to see that he practices what he preaches. Rather unusual nowadays. Helen, you will never believe what I have been doing. I've finished making runners for my bureau, night table, and to cover the top of my footlocker. In fact, I even started to make drapes for the rest of the material. Originally, Peg and I were both going to use this bolt of obi material. However, it is striped, 2 shades of blue and white. And since Peg has decided on a different color scheme for her room, she sold me her half of the material. It really has added to the look of the room. When the bedspreads arrive, I will buy a few pictures, and I will really be quite cozy. The window is extremely high. In fact, it covers 3/4 of the wall space in length. So how I will manage to hang these drapes is quite a problem. Got an extra pair of stilts? Daddy, here's an attempt to answer some of the questions you ask. Doing as the natives do, you ask. Yes and no. We're wearing geta, for they are very practical type of footwear. Nancy can explain in detail. We do not join the nationals in some of their personal habits, though. This is the squattingest nation I know. Men, women, boys, girls. When you gotta go, you gotta go. And they do, anywhere, anytime. No inhibitions at all. Although we see some small English, French, and Italian-made automobiles, the Japanese who do drive cars use mostly American-made ones. However, a favorite vehicle over here is a 3-wheeled affair with a small covered trailer back of the cab. The family ride in the back part, and everyone seems quite happy. It looks very bouncy, however. We have not eaten in a Japanese restaurant, except for one evening after a dance when some GIs took us out for the Japanese version of chow mein. I prefer the kind you get in Harrisburg, PA. Then one evening in Tokyo, a group of us gals went to the Sioux Heroes, but there we ate in the American room and had filet mignon for an amazingly low price. We are looking forward to eating sukiyaki at the same place. This is served Japanese style, where we will sit on the floor on cushions and the dish will be prepared right in front of us. The main ingredient is roast beef. Did you know that Kobe beef is the best in the world? The steers are hand massaged, whatever that means. We'll let you know more about sukiyaki after we've eaten it. In 1935, Lefty O'Toole, or O'Dole, do you know who I mean? Came over here and organized a professional baseball team through the sponsorship of a Tokyo newspaper. The game caught on very rapidly, as you know, and everywhere you walk, you see boys of all ages passing baseballs, practicing hitting, running, etc. We saw a midget league team in practice session in Yokohama. Since the last war, there are 2 professional teams, and they have playoff games and etc., much like our World Series. As yet, I haven't met anyone who seems to be a baseball fan, but there is an MP in Tokyo who wants us to help him shop for a gift for his mother-in-law. If we ever accomplish that, I'm going to ask him to take me to a baseball game as a return favor. I'll let you know how I make out. This letter is being written from my room with a very pleasant breeze rustling the papers on the writing table. Here I was dreading the summer over here, and so far it seems you folks have been suffering more from the heat than we have. We really are out in the country, though, and it's so delightful. The mountains are a beautiful sight to behold, and I'm told that on very clear days we will be able to see Mount Fuji. Speaking of maps, I'd like to find one too. We plan to visit some Lutheran missionaries in southern Japan, and I'd like to know where we're going. Kyoto is the cultural capital of Japan, with many shrines, parks, a pearl farm, etc. to offer. That will probably be our first big trip, although we are making reservations to stay at Fujiya or Fuji View, either of 2 rest resort hotels in September. Now for some business. I'm sending a money order home tomorrow. We don't make an allotment for a few weeks yet, and in the meantime, perhaps the bank account needs straightening. If the July insurance premiums of $50.04 and $8.23 were paid, then there is still a credit balance. How about sending $10 to International Society of Christian Endeavor, 1201 East Broad Street, Columbus, Ohio, and just mark the check somewhere for the United Advance so they'll know what fund to credit it to. Then, if there's still money left, I owe $40 on a pledge made for the support of Matt Cochran as the new CE Secretary Missionary for Pennsylvania. Ask Jim or Esther how and where to send the check. That part wasn't settled when I left. If there is not enough in the bank to pay the entire pledge, send part and make a note to finish paying it off later. Thanks. Oops, I meant domo arigato. Pronounce it domo arigato. Thank you so much. Newsflash, we sold Tommy DeWalt's picture in the Stars and Stripes service paper as one of the crew who helped fly back some of the latest prisoners. I'm sending the picture of Ann Leiter. I'm sending the picture to Ann Leiter. He was a protege of hers. Toxon, much love, Bern. I hope that you are enjoying the podcast, and if you are, please subscribe in Spotify on Apple Podcasts. Hit the plus button in the top right-hand corner. This will help my listeners find my podcast more easily. You can access the show's website at www.FromMcClay2Zama.com for pictures and additional information about the topics. In the next episode, episode 10, Strike, you will hear letters 21 to 23. I hope you have a great week.